Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. My special guest today is John Beasley. He's a pianist, a composer, arranger, and a producer, 12-time nominated Grammy, and has won 2. His new album is Returning to Forever with the Frankfurt Radio Big Band. We're listening to it right now. This is, I told John, my favorite song so far. I love this album because it does have a lot of layers, and I think you can listen to it over and over and over and always hear something new. It just so happens that I love this song right now, that we're listening to, and I mentioned that to John earlier. It's a great album, John. The song that we're listening to is Space Circus off of Returning to Forever. Welcome back, John.
Thank you. Hey, good to be back.
So where are you, by the way, in the world? Where in the world are you?
I'm in Venice, California, and this is my studio.
Oh, great. So the place that I mentioned in the opening monologue there was the Shores, right there on Nielsen. That's where I lived for 12 years.
Sure. Santa Monica
Yeah.
Shore.
Yeah, right over there by you.
Of course.
Right? Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
We have a 9-hole golf course, a pitch and putt, right there where all the grass is and tennis courts. That was all.
Was it there? I don't know if it's there when I lived there. I don't remember that. Is that new?
That was a while ago.
Oh, I guess I didn't get out much.
I love that. Probably before you were there.
It could have been, yeah, because I don't recall that at all. Well, so let's talk. We're talking about the album Returning to Forever. We're playing it throughout the show here. Is there, for a new listener, for someone that's new to jazz, because I come across people like this all the time, and they don't know jazz, so they say they don't understand it or like it. What would you like the listener to hear if they heard they were listening to one album and Returning to Forever was the album? How would you like them to listen and hear it?
Well, fusion for a lot of people is a gateway to jazz because it has rock and electronica and beats involved, and it has energy. It's a strong, beefy record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's electric guitar solos, it has sort of broad rock elements to it, classical elements to it. So it's really fusion music was a bridge for me, for me, it was Earth, Wind and Fire in Chicago and Sly Stone and, the horn bands. And then I got into jazz that way, and then got deeper in it because of Headhunters and Where Have I Known You Before by Return Forever. Those were my bridge, So yeah, this has a lot of jazz elements, but a lot of rock and contemporary music elements. So fusion records are great for that.
Yeah, I agree. What 5 jazz albums do you believe belong in any serious jazz collection?
Oh, wow. Well, for me,
3? Give me 3. Because
probably
you had
5.
some good recommendations here in some articles I read, so I was thinking, no, I'd love to hear your recommendations.
I could do 5. Of mine, right?
Yeah.
Nefertiti by Miles Davis. Crescent by John Coltrane. Speak No Evil, Wayne Shorter. Headhunters, Herbie Hancock.
That's a good one.
And then let's go back further. This is when it gets hard. Duke Ellington, piano in the foreground and piano in the background. I'm going to do more. Thad Jones and Mel Lewis, Central Park North.
That was one of the first that you heard, right, from your father?
Yeah. Quincy Jones, Walking in Space. Now let's get contemporary. Any Charlie Parker, right? What what's one of my favorite contemporary records? Black Radio, Robert Glasper. Um,
How about one of yours? What do you really like aside from this one, the new one?
um, a lot of people like my record "Letter to Herbie," and Positively was up for a nomination. That's a nice record. The Monkestra trilogy, they were all nominated and won Grammy awards. The three records, reimagining Thelonious Monk. Also, I should say any Monk. This is impossible. Any Thelonious Monk record, you know.
Well, you did a good job. Okay. So you gave me some great new, we gave all of us some great new albums to add to our list if they're not in there.
All right.
Thank you for doing that. I know those are questions you're like, oh man, how can you narrow it down? But you did get a call from Miles Davis one day to join your band. It was back in 1989, join his band. Can you
Yeah.
tell me about that phone call?
Yeah, I was working with Walter Becker of Steely Dan in the studio. He was producing Ricky Lee Jones, and I was in the studio that day with Chuck Rainey, the incredible bass player, and I can never remember this. A great drummer, not Hal Blaine. Shoot. Huh? No, no, it was we just played with him at the write-off room. Oh God. Why? Okay. He played in Little Village. You know the band Little Village?
Uh-huh.
Who's
Uh-huh.
the drummer in Little Village?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to blank with you. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Well,
he
I
was
can look it up. Tell me
and he was
while you're talking.
so I was in the studio with those guys, and uh my wife at the time was pregnant, with my first child. So Miles called, and he called and left a message, and then I called him back, and he said, "Hey man, this is Miles Davis." I said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Is this really Miles?" Because I figured, a lot of at the time people were making jokes, and he said, "Yeah, it's me. I want you to join the band. I want you to join the band." And my first response is so wimpy. Are you sure? I said, "Are you sure?" You know. He
Who
said,
is
"Yeah,
this?
I want you to join the band." So I said, "Incredible," and you know, um, made arrangements to go, and we spent 2 weeks in New York rehearsing, and I did European tour and a U.S. tour, and went back to Europe, and it was not only did I grow as a musician in his band, I really kind of felt like I grew up as a human being. Um, uh,
That's such a great, that should be on your business cards. I got a phone call from Miles Davis. He asked me to join his band. I mean, that is an iconic phone call. That's amazing. So Little Village has Ry Cooder, John Hyatt, Nick Lowe, Jim Keltner.
Jim Keltner was the drummer.
Keltner. Okay.
So I'm in the studio with these guys, and Ricky Lake Jones is. I'm like, man, I'm in heaven, right? And so I told those guys, I told Walter mostly, I said, Walter, and Dean Parks was there, and I said, Walter, I got this call, man. I'm really enjoying making this record, and blah blah blah. And I had just met him. He said, man, are you kidding me? You have to go. You're gonna go. They practically kicked me out of the studio. So the next day for the session, I went in, and they had a big bottle of champagne, a big magnum for me, signed by everybody, and said, your daughter's going to be fine. Go. And this record's going to be fine without you too. And so I went. Yeah, I left. And ended up being friends for life with Walter Becker. While I was on the road with Miles, he got an imprint with Wyndham Hill Jazz and produced my first two records. Got my first record deal and produced my first two records. And then I ended up playing on his first solo record, 11 tracks of whack, and eventually ended up being a member of Steely Dan.
What a life you've led, my friend, and what great music greats to be surrounded by. Must be so inspirational to your art as well.
It's fun to talk about.
International Jazz Day.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, this is pretty incredible. You've been the music
National
director.
Jazz Day was started 14 or 15.
2011.
Thank you.
Sound right?
But if that's what you're looking at, yeah, it's probably
Yeah,
true.
that's what I've got, but you
Okay.
never know.
International Jazz Day was established by UNESCO and Herbie Hancock in 2011. Herbie was a Goodwill Arts Ambassador for UNESCO, and he pushed this legislation to go uh, through to have a annual an annual day for jazz, like Earth Day. Same people that do Earth Day, same do people that do Women's Day, UNESCO. So it's every April 30th. And so the inaugural concert, one was in Paris, one was in New York, and one was in New Orleans. And Herbie made all three. So I was the musical director for Paris. We had George Benson and Hugh Masekela and Herbie. It was just amazing. And then he got on a plane, made it in time for the one in New York, probably just in time. Um, and that was full of stars, Wynton Marsalis, all kinds of people. And then after that, he got on a plane to make it in New Orleans, and he played remotely from is it St. Peter's Square in New Orleans? It's the cathedral there. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
remotely through the phone, IDS with people in Brazil, and then they piped it to the International Space Station. That was
Oh my God.
since then we put on concerts that are produced by his institute, the Hancock Institute, with UNESCO, and we've been to Turkey, Istanbul, um, Cuba, um, Australia, um, Japan, Osaka Castle, Japan, and they usually are in UNESCO heritage sites. We were at the Majitsky Theater in St. Petersburg,
Mm,
and eventually we made
beautiful
it to the White
places.
House. We made it to the White House, and like I was saying, this was the last time I saw Chick Corea. So Chick Corea was one of the artists, along with Aretha Franklin and Terrence Blanchard, Diane Reeves. Sting was there, um, John McLaughlin, Marcus Miller, uh, Jamie Cullum, McBride, Hugh Masekela, Herbie, Chick, Dee Dee Bridgewater, Esperanza. This is the picture.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, check this out on the YouTube channel. If you're just listening, what a picture.
Yeah. So
How do you
this,
fit all those people in there?
well,
Your wide
uh,
limbs.
I'm the musical director, so I've got to figure out who plays with who and plays what. But I love it. Wayne Shorter was there.
I
Anyway,
would not want that job.
oh,
What
you
a
would, man. It's the most incredible situation in the world. Can you imagine?
I mean, I'm saying that like you've got so many greats there. If how do you arrange all that? How do you
Well, the
give
cool thing
everybody?
is that because it's Herbie Hancock, everybody checks their ego at the door. It's not a problem. Anyway, another backstory to this is that there were several Miles alumni there that day. So we did a tune. We did Spanish Key from Bitches Brew with all these alumni, myself included, Chick, Herbie, Marcus Miller, Wayne Shorter, and John McLaughlin.
Jeez,
Right. So that was the high point of the evening for me. Um,
is that
Pat
a high
He
point?
was
One of the high
there.
points of your life?
Yeah, I
In
would
the
definitely.
room with all of them? Yeah, imagine.
The Obamas were very supportive and kind and opening, and you know.
Are they
So
big jazz fans? I imagine.
apparently, Michelle is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she grew up listening to jazz from an uncle. Yeah. So that was the last time I saw Chick in person. We exchanged emails and talked on the phone a few times, but that was the last time.
Well, what a powerful last time to see him, be
Indeed.
in that room with him. All right, we're going to take our last and final break here. My special guest today, John Beasley, his new album, Returning to Forever, with the Frankfurt Radio Big Band. And we'll talk about the Frankfurt Radio Big Band when we get back. We're also going to talk about John's on tour. Go to johnbeasleymusic.com and you can get merch, albums, music, catch up with John, subscribe, and keep track of all the great music he's making and all the great friends he's making out there on tour. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.